In the Company of Charity is a podcast by the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul. Each episode will be discussing the church, society, and service to others, all through the lens of the spirit we received from St. Vincent de Paul, the Saint of Charity. Join in the conversation by sending your comments and questions to companyofcharity@gmail.com. All right, well, welcome everyone to In the Company of Charity, a podcast of the Daughters of Charity, and I'm joined by Sister Liz Schoberg. How you doing today, Liz?
Fabulous. Here we are once again. Excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited. I'm excited about our episode today. We're going to be hearing from Sister Georgina in Los Angeles. She's doing an interview with one of her coworkers, David Romero. And you know what I really loved about this episode and is that it really reminded me of the broad family of the Vincentians. It really brings out for me the sense that we don't do anything in kind of a small way. You know, Vincentians are all over the world. There's millions of us, different family members, as we call them. You know, we don't necessarily see ourselves in the small bubble of just our ministry or just the Daughters of Charity, but we see ourselves connected through this wider charism of St. Vincent de Paul that reaches lay people, religious, priests, St. Vincent de Paul members, miraculous medal people. I mean, the family is just broad and wide and around the world. And here are just two people sitting at a cafe in Los Angeles talking about things Vincentian, and that was just really exciting to hear.
Yeah, and this is kind of, I think, I look at it as a sort of Vincentian 101. A fun fact for me is that when St. Vincent de Paul was around, the first branch, so to speak, that he started in the family was actually a lay branch. And so the lay people started with the charism even before the priests came along, and then the Daughters of Charity were even founded. And I think that that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it is. And you're talking about, of course, the Ladies of Charity, who the Daughters of Charity really became co-workers with. It was the Ladies of Charity who started the ministry to the sick in hospitals. And, you know, when we talk about charism, I think it's always kind of a little hard for people to understand what exactly is a charism. What does it mean to be Vincentian as opposed to being Franciscan or Benedictine or Dominican? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's kind of hard to understand that when you're not in the lingo, when you're not in the culture of it. So I think for us, or for me, I kind of see this charism of St. Vincent de Paul specifically as a charism that reached out to people who couldn't be reached in other ways. You know, looking at those who live in poverty, those who are isolated. St. Louise would often say the kind of the bashful or the shy poor, those who don't always reach out themselves. But it was a way to connect those who had so much with those who have so little, so that equity could happen, you know. And I think we're going to hear some of that in this episode about just how people in different walks of life are connecting in order to meet the needs of those who need the help.
Exactly.
And that's really what the charism is all about and how it's lived today. I think that's real obvious and evident in this episode.
And you're going to hear some other terms as well. So when they talk about VMY, that's the Vincentian Marian Youth.
Yeah.
And another term they use is IPS, and that's International Project Services, which is, they'll explain it a little bit more, but projects throughout the world that anyone can support, but that we know for sure they've been vetted. Our sisters are right on the ground performing those works and making sure that any money that comes through gets put to good use.
Yeah, definitely take some time, you know, when you're listening, after you're listening to Google, you know, Vincentian Marian Youth, the International Project Services, to see what work they do and how those missions are being supported throughout the world by many, many different Vincentians. I think for me, the other term that was used that may need some explaining is apostolic reflection. And I think it probably kind of explains itself in some ways, but it's it's a really specific practice that we as Daughters of Charity, and I think most Vincentians take up, and it again goes with the charism. It gives us an opportunity to reflect on our apostolate, and not just what did we do, how did we serve the poor, how did it make us feel, did it make us feel good, but really to look at how evangelization happened. How did those we serve, how did God show up in the experience, I think is probably the best way to say it. It's to reflect not just on the work itself, but the presence of God in the work. And again, when you think about St. Paul, we often will speak about reflecting on finding Christ in the poor and the poor in Christ. And that's what we take to prayer as Daughters of Charity. And I think it's something that those who catch the fire, the spark of the Vincentian Charism, begin to see that as well, that Christ dwells in us, and certainly in our vulnerabilities and in our poverty, but most especially we find him in those who are struggling. As he told us we would in Matthew's gospel, that when you do for the least, you do for me. And we kind of take that very seriously in our apostolic reflection. So I really appreciated hearing that and hearing how David, he takes the time to do that with his students. And I think that's a great thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a Christian thing. I mean, I think all Christians do that to some extent, who are, trying to live their faith intentionally, but it's certainly apostolic reflection is a hallmark of our spirituality. And I think this episode is a good reminder to me that our spirit doesn't just belong to us. It's bigger than just the sisters, bigger than the priests. It belongs to the whole world. And, it's interesting to note that the Vincentian Pulse Society, for example, is huge. It's the largest branch of all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so certainly for anybody who's listening, there's a lot of chock full of good stuff in this episode. And as questions come up or comments, we certainly invite them.
Yeah. And, I would have them check out too, if you have questions after you've been listening to and you want to learn more about the charism, certainly you can email us at companyofcharity@gmail.com. Or even just, again, use a search, check out the Daughters of Charity, famvin.org, I think. Yeah. Famvin.org is the Vincentian family website. So there's a lot out there that you can find more about. Definitely email us, let us know about what you've been finding out and what's fascinating you about all of this. But let's get on with Sister Georgina and David Romero speaking about their work at Mother of Sorrows School in Los Angeles.
My name is Sister Georgina Severin, and I'm a Daughter of Charity. We're coming at you from Los Angeles, California, a coffee shop in downtown Los Angeles. And I've got my friend and colleague here, David Romero. David, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is David Romero. I'm 26 years old, and I'm currently a teacher at Mother of Sorrows School in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and the cool thing is we get to work together.
Yeah.
So it's really great to be doing this interview, to be interviewing a colleague and someone I hope to consider a friend for a long time.
Definitely, yeah.
So David, if it's all right with you, I'm going to ask you a few questions about what it means to be in the company of the Daughters of Charity, in the company of the Vincentian Charism, and also in the company of the poor.
Sure.
So let's start with who you are. Can you tell us a little bit about how you encountered the charism? And I guess what I mean by that is what's your story? How did you come to know the Daughters of Charity and Mother of Sorrows School?
Yeah. So my journey started in Texas, which is where I'm originally from. So I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. Mm-hmm. And then when it got time to go to university, I went to Brown University, which is in Rhode Island, which was really far from home.
Yeah.
And it was a big move for me at the time. And while I was up at Brown, I met a woman named Evelyn,
mm-hmm.
Evelyn,
yes.
who became my girlfriend. And she was originally from Los Angeles, California. So we spent our 4 years there at Brown. We both got our degrees. I went back to Dallas to move home for a year and to get my teaching license, and she moved back home to LA, to UCLA, to get her master's degree in social work. So we were apart for a year, and then afterwards I decided to make the move over to LA. It was a really difficult decision.
Yes.
And it was a really big step, and it was a leap that I knew I wasn't totally ready to make, but I wanted to make. So I just made it, and I moved here. And when I was here, I had my teaching license already, so I was looking at different types of schools, and I was looking at Catholic schools and public schools, charter schools, and I moved here without a job. The job came later, so I had sort of thrown my name in the ring, and what I ended up getting was an interview with Mother of Sorrows School, which was a daughter charity co-sponsored school. I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
I was totally oblivious to the charism or to anything having to do with the Daughters of Charity. I didn't even know that they co-sponsored the school when I had the interview. So I knew just a little bit about them just based on information from the school's website. So I had the interview, and the principal gave me the lowdown and gave me a lot of background information and told me, this is what they do, this is who they are, this is their story, this is our story school coming to be co-sponsored by them. So, I thought, cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
So it's still not knowing too much about it, but that was sort of, I would say, truly my first encounter with, not with the concept, with the terminology, with even the word Vincentian Charism, that phrase, would have been in my job interview to be a Catholic school teacher.
Yeah. And now, they say that nothing happens on accident, and it's been really wonderful to work with you these past 2 years.
Likewise.
And my next question is, there's wisdom in the community. I've heard sisters say that Daughters of Charity become sisters for certain reasons. And then once they find themselves Daughters of Charity, they end up staying for quite different reasons than the ones that brought them here to our community. So I'm wondering for you, this is, how many years have you been at Mother of Sorrows now?
I just finished my 3rd year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you came because life brought you here. Evelyn, who's now your wonderful wife.
Sure, yeah.
It's been great to meet her, too.
Thank you.
And is there anything about the charism or the school or anything that you can say, other than the obvious, like what are things that keep you working at Mother of Sorrows for now?
Well, first of all, I really love that quote, the one about coming for one reason and staying for another. And so that actually reminds me of a quote from one of my favorite philosophers called Neil Postman. And the quote is about students actually in school. And he says, students enter schools as question marks and leave as periods. Right?
Oh, wow, that's beautiful.
Presuming that teachers do their jobs and that they're fully formed, that they grow, throughout their journey, which is, I think, the goal of education. But to answer your question, I think what makes me stay at Mother of Sorrows and what makes me stay in a broader picture within the ministry of the Daughters of Charity and the mission is, I think, just the dedication to persons who are poor, right? The dedication to service with no strings attached. I've heard many different Daughters of Charities say similar things about the way they view their own mission, right? Like, service doesn't come with, it doesn't always come with like this great recognition, and it's perhaps even greater when it doesn't, right? In certain situations. And I think just that spirit of humility, specifically within service, but just in general, that's something I strive for. That's something that helps me just personally in my own life. It's something that has helped me as a teacher in doing my mission and ministry and role and job there. All those things packed into one.
Yes.
Those are. I'm as you know, I'm a very heady thinker.
Yes.
I'm always in my head, so I think I need to be sort of. Things need to feel right for me. I need to be a part of a mission that I believe in. I think for me to really get something out of my job, and for me to truly give something to the students that we teach. So I think working alongside you, working alongside the mission is something that helps me a lot in that. You know, it orients me, it centers me, and I think it applies some focus to my mission, my own mission. Yeah.
As I listen to you speak, David, I am reminded of all the things that are just in, you know, as you get to work with somebody day by day, you understand their strengths and what they bring to a community. Now, as I listen to you speak, I know those because I get to see you work with the children and with our colleagues on a day-to-day basis. Now, I know tooting your own horn is not what you like to do, but I would like to talk about maybe what you bring to the charism too, because I think being in the company isn't just about the charism and how it affects your life, but what you bring to it, because you bring a lot as far as I see, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Wow, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I know.
You really threw the curveball.
Yes,
No,
sorry about that.
No, not at all. Yeah. Well, I think what I try to bring is just someone who's willing to learn. You know, well, and to the kids, you know, I try to always to our students, right? The students at Mother of Sorrows who are directly, you know, under our supervision and under our care, but also just every student in that school, right? You know, because it's such a small school, you know, we're all sort of like, we all feel responsible for everyone as teachers, for other teachers, and for the wider school at large. But what I try to bring is just being a good. I'm going to speak very broadly.
Yes.
I think what I strive for is to try to be like a good role model as like a lay person in this setting, right? In a Catholic school setting, right? And as someone who is still discovering a lot of things of myself and still growing within my spirituality, within my teaching, within even just my personality, you know, I've changed a lot since I've been at Mother of Sorrows.
Yes.
These 3 years, these have been very formative years for me. I've gotten married. You know,
Yes.
a lot of adult things have happened, and
Adulting.
yeah, adulting for sure. Yeah, to the nth degree. But I think, in light of all of the change, you know, I think what I try to bring is a sense of constancy, a sense of consistency, and for the students, and just a sense of I guess reliability in school. You know, so somebody who, if somebody needs help with something in school, that I want to be someone who's dependable, right? You know, if you are plotting one of your many, you know, ideas or activities or initiatives, like I want to at least play a small role in that and be dependable and a part of the system, you know. So I don't know, I'm not someone who likes the spotlight.
Yes, I know.
I'm very reserved, I'm very shy, but I like to do work behind the scenes. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. And as I listen to you speak, I think of all the ways you do that at school, and I'm also reminded of how much our school community, the students and their families, need things like that, because it is a school community that has a demographic that is slightly varied, but not so much. You know, we have some middle-class families, but we also have some very poor families and students who come from homes that are, struggling to make it. And being someone who is dependable in a world or in a family system that's not dependable for them is something that's so valuable for our students.
Definitely, yeah.
And that's what they need to thrive, so that they can become people who serve others in turn.
For sure, yeah. Definitely. I totally agree.
Yeah, so that's a great gift. So let's be specific about some of the things you're involved in at Mother of Sorrows School and with the Daughters of Charity. You're, I don't know the word, is it a moderator or a coach for the VMY, the Vincentian Marian Youth?
Yeah, I would say facilitator, kind of like it's not very formal. I help out the other coordinator at school, Miss Robbins.
Yes. And what kinds of things do the students and you do through VMY?
Yeah, through VMY, we do a lot of direct service. So we plan a lot of things and meetings. We talk a lot about not just what we're going to do, but what service means, right? The spirit going into them. We do a lot of reflecting, apostolic reflection, things like that. So A cool initiative we did was we went to the Midnight Mission this past school year on a Saturday morning. I believe it was 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and the students were there from VMY along with student council. And it was a great way to spread, I think, the mission of VMY, you know, and to get another group involved, right? That was influential at school. So they do a lot of other fundraising events, and it's all sort of direct. I mean, all of the proceeds go to the charities, you know, sponsored by the Daughters of Charity, right? I believe there was one, I don't know the terminology for it, but there's a fund, an international Daughters of Charity.
IPS?
I believe
International
so, yeah.
Project Services.
Yeah, and I know that we always, at the VMY National Leadership Retreat I went to, I believe that's one of the big focus, that's a big focus now, to get VMI groups to have fundraisers specifically towards those initiatives. Yeah. So, you know, so fundraising money, more direct service, some playful stuff like Shakey's Night, things like that. But just trying to let them know what the spirit of service is like and what that looks like. And I think a big thing we do also is the youth leadership retreat, which is going to be in a couple weeks actually in July. And I mean, the whole week students get really inundated with like things having to do with the Vincentian Charism, right? I mean, I think they get a really good kind of mini boot camp, mini education on what the mission is, you know, and how to go about service and all those things, right? A lot of it is reinforced at that camp, which I'm really excited for. I'm really happy to be a part of.
Yeah, wonderful. And then you also are, I don't remember if you're finished or you're still taking the Fevers program. Could you explain what that program is and what it was like for you?
Yeah. So I just actually finished the program this past school year, a couple months ago, and so the program is about it's forming educators in the Vincentian Charism. I think it's FEVC.
Yeah,
and,
lovingly known as Fevers.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely, yeah. Lovingly known as Fevers for sure. Yeah. We all love acronyms. So it's really, it is what it says. You know, we get a lot of formation through reflection. My favorite part of Fevers is probably learning about the saints, just to sort of, one, biographical accounts about them. We always have the Daughters of Charity, who's the educational counselor who facilitates these discussions and these lectures. You know, so that is like very, very useful to me. You know, I just want to hear about the saints. You know, I want to know the mission as from St. Vincent's, not his mouth, from his pen, right?
Yeah.
You know, from his accounts. Like, I want to know about that. I don't want it diluted. I don't want it packaged or watered down. I want to hear what he said. Yeah. And I want to know what he did. And I want to know what does that look like today? How can we translate that today? So Fevers was the greatest source of knowledge, I think, for me regarding the saints, for sure, and definitely the Vincentian Charism as well. And just hearing about the lives of the saints, you know, I mean, such great struggle and hardship and loss and grief in all of their lives in many different ways, and for them to sort of not succumb to the pain, the hardship, but to use that for a purpose so much greater than themselves is very inspiring. So that really, I would say that program got me very in touch with the charism, I would say. Yeah.
Now, as you were speaking about St. Vincent's words, hearing it straight from his mouth or from his pen, I was wondering if you know that we have like over 12 volumes of either his writings or meaning minutes, and it's pretty cool because I know you're a writer, you're somebody who likes to read, and I just want our listeners to know that of the many saints in our church, he is one of the ones we're so blessed to have his actual words and his actual statements, because a charism can only be true as much as we stay true to the founder's intentions and how the Holy Spirit was working through that founder himself and herself in the case of St. Louis de Maria. So the next question is, this is a dicey one. What's it like working with the Daughters of Charity?
Yeah, I know you warned me about this question.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's great. In
Okay.
short, you know, so it's really great to obviously have you
Well,
right
thank
next
you.
door. You know, like, you know, just personally, you know, you're a great coworker and always, you know, there for you know the school community and everything. But apart from that, you know, I think. Just working within, I think, a mission greater than myself, and in a way where it can grow my Catholic faith
Yes.
and grow my spirituality is really big, you know. And I think having, you know, the Daughters of Charity visible and present at our school is also really big too for our school, for our students as well, and you know, you're able to guide us, inform us in small ways, and even just have conversations, right, about charism and what it means and what we can be doing to sort of to heighten the mission at school, right? Not just to check off a box and to say, oh, we do this, or we're Vincentian, right? Or we do that. Let's pat ourselves on the back and not look to ever improve, right?
Yeah.
I think you're always really good about looking for new ideas. So, but you know, like I think that's really big, and I also think working with the Daughters of Charity in general has been really delightful. You know, I think the Daughters of Charity have been nothing but welcoming to me through the Fevers program, through other programs, other retreats. They've held and hosted religious congresses, things like that. Like all of that just helps me as a young Catholic. You know, like, and I really feel that way. It helps me as somebody who's just like a young religious person, you know, and who is still sort of working through that and growing and deciding what my faith means to me specifically and how that manifests itself in little ways in my life, you know. I think just for me personally, having a Daughters of Charity helps me a lot with
Yes.
that.
Thank you. One of the great privileges I have as a Daughter of Charity is to represent my community, and sometimes that feels like a very awesome task, and sometimes it feels like a very scary thing because personalities like my own, you know, sometimes get in the way. But the cool thing is, you know, when you work with one Daughter of Charity, you're basically working with the entire company.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to that phrase because we're talking about being in the company of one another, because no one can do what they're set out to do alone.
Yeah.
And the Daughters of Charity as a community can't do it alone. And so it's really wonderful to have this time with you as a layperson working with us at our school. To cap off our time together, are there any takeaways for life? You've been working with us now for 3 years, and hopefully another year coming. And you know, the future holds endless possibilities. As you go forth in the future, what do you think you'll take with you from the Vincentian Charism?
Yeah, so something really important I think I'll take with me is, I think, as I mentioned earlier, the spirit of humility, especially when it comes to service. And I think in very small ways in everyday life, you know, I carry that with me and I think about it, you know, and maybe not specifically before every decision, you know, like, oh, what would St. Vincent do?
Yeah,
You know, I'm not haunted by him, you know, like, I'm not, nor am I haunted by the Vincentian Charism or the Daughters of Charity or feeling guilty or anything like that, but more of a general, I think what I'm trying to say is it more generally, it informs my daily life. You know, it's what I do every day for work. It's what I strive for. It's what I. It's really sort of like, I view it as a mission in life, right? To really just fulfill, you know, this this task, this, I don't know what to call it, this ministry that I've been placed into almost by accident, you know, like, and to find my role in that and to learn to thrive and to hopefully be a role model for somebody else, you know, a student or somebody, you know, trying to, maybe even another teacher, right? You know, like, I want to just sort of like, I want to inhabit my position as best as I can, you know, and I want to just do right by our students. I think that drives me in a very direct and palpable sense, but in a more sort of, if I take a step back and if I think about my faith as a Catholic, if I think about my life and the overall sort of moral compass that guides me every day, I think I'll just take away a sense and spirit of humility. Yeah, and I think the Daughters of Charity have really helped me out with that.
Yeah,
For
thank
sure.
you. Thank you. It's been great to be with you here, David, and
Definitely. Thank you. Likewise.
look forward to the next time, hopefully.
Thanks. This was really fun. Yeah,
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
All right, signing out. Take care, everyone.
All right.
Bye-bye.
And now it's time for your Vincentian Pulse.
While Mary and Joseph were there, the time came for Mary to have her child, and she gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. We begin our Advent journey with anticipation and hope, as did Mary and Joseph as they headed to Bethlehem. We hope that we'll grow closer to Christ as we prepare for Christmas, that we may be able to open ourselves more fully to embrace the gift of Christ in each of us, in others, and in our lives. Your Advent journey is not likely to take you to Bethlehem or anywhere else, especially not on a slow donkey. Maybe you're just in your regular surroundings, and the only long, slow journey is being stuck in traffic. More important than traveling is your personal journey, the journey of your spirit and soul. What inner journey is God calling you to this Advent? A journey of healing, a journey to forgiveness, a journey to empathy and compassion, a journey of opening your eyes to the suffering of others? While the Holy Family was in Bethlehem, they had to flee to Egypt to escape Herod's massacre of the young Jewish boys in and around Bethlehem. We often pass this event in our Bibles without much thought or reflection. How terrifying for them to have been in so much danger and having to escape to a foreign land. During these times, we hear of so many people, families, fleeing violence, danger, and hunger in their homelands. They travel great distances, often on foot, seeking safety, asylum, and hope for the future of their children. How are these families being received as they arrive to what they hope is a place of safety and survival for their family? How was the Holy Family received in Egypt? No, the Bible doesn't say. What if the U.S. was the Egypt of Jesus' time? How would we have received the Holy Family? Would it depend on us knowing their identity? Would all three have been allowed into the country? History would have been much different if the Holy Family was forced to remain in Bethlehem during Herod's murderous rampage. Matthew 25 reminds us that ever we do for those considered least in our society, we do for Christ. So take time to reflect on the families fleeing Syria and Yemen, but especially those arriving at our own ports of entry, the bridges between Mexico and the U.S. Remember Matthew 25, beginning with verse 40. And the king will say to them in reply, Amen, I say to you, whatever you did for one of these least brothers of mine, you did for me. Then he will say to those on his left, Depart from me, you accursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. A stranger, and you gave me no welcome. Naked, and you gave me no clothing. Ill and in prison, and you did not care for me. Amen, I say to you, what you did not do for one of these least ones, you did not do for me. And these will go off to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. May your Advent inner journey lead you to live a more righteous life, united more closely to Christ. Amen. Have a blessed Advent.
This has been In the Company of Charity podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.